Hello, one more information video from themudhome.com from my little off-grid world in Spain. And this one is the last video I'm doing about food, because actually the reason is I think people over worry about it and over obsess about it, and I think it's because of that Maslow's triangle thing. I guarantee that guy was in an office sitting in a comfy chair with central heating when he wrote that. He definitely hadn't done any surviving in the wild, because if you have, you know that honestly food isn't really the first thing on your mind. It's not the first thing you need to concentrate on, and it will shock people when I say that, because we're so programmed. Food, you're going to die without food. The first thing you need to think about is shelter. You can't survive one night without decent shelter, you know. You can go a long time without food. And most of us could do with shaving a good third of our calories off our diet anyway, maybe half. It would do us good. It wouldn't do us any harm at all. But food. Now, I'm cutting down my veggie patch by half this year. I've decided, I've gone through an interesting cycle with this. I'm going back to where I started, which is to let the land take care of me, because it is that easy, and it's so much, in my opinion, it's so much better. So this is about foraging, and I think a lot of people get put off foraging because, well, they're afraid they might die by choosing the wrong thing. Fair point. This is a brilliant book. I don't get any, as you know, I don't do advertising, but it's a really good book by John Rensten called The Edible City. It's for a city, it's for UK London, but I still found it extremely useful, because these plants, these weeds are everywhere. They're pretty much everywhere. I mean, they may not be if you're in Africa or Australia, I don't know, but a lot of them are very ubiquitous, you know. And it's beautifully illustrated, for one thing. Gives you nice details and tells you exactly how to go about foraging. It kind of teaches you the art, and it's all, the devil's in the details, which I'm going to go through in just a minute. When I show you around. But why forage and why not garden? Why have I chosen that? Right, there's no pest issue with foraging, you know. You don't have to worry about anything. It's just that it just sprouts freely and you can't pick it. It's like Gaia's garden, instead of you having all this protection going on, trying to stop your stuff getting eaten by slugs or by birds or by anything. It's weather resistant, you know. The foraged food just has adapted to whatever climate you're in, so those weeds are always the most hardy. Another thing is those weeds have not been genetically modified, and most of the vegetables that we eat today, even the ones that we're buying in seed form, have been played with and they're hybridized. So the weeds are like the grandparents or the ancestors often of our hybridized vegetables, and so many times they're kind of got nutritional keys and magic inside them that the others don't have. So for medicinal purposes as well, for health purposes, they're so much better. They're often more delicious. I'm going to come to one that I've just discovered and I'm like, why have I been growing lettuce all this time? And they're self-propagating. You don't do anything. You don't do anything. What a joy. It's there for you. You don't need time. You don't need to prepare. You don't even need a garden. You know, you could be in a city and do this like this guy is, John Rensten. So it's no work. So they are a lot easier. This really is, in my opinion, one of the fundamental things people should know if they want to be resilient and be able to navigate these weird times. You know, it's good to know this skill, have it under your belt, and know that you can just go around and pick what you need. But let's go through some details, as I said, why it's quite difficult sometimes, and why people get put off because they don't want to poison themselves. Fair dues. Let's go and have a look. Now I'm going to start with this beauty here, the dandelion. So basic, but it's the leaves. Really, all the details that you need to check. And I'm going to show you something that looks like a dandelion as well that isn't, and you'll be able to sort of see how you start noticing the difference. Because if that flower wasn't there, how would I know that's a dandelion? If you notice the kind of star shape of the way the leaves are, if I pick one, you can see like sort of like arrows pointing upwards, right? But there's another plant that looks just like, now the dandelion is extremely nutritional and can be used for many things. You can use the leaves you can use them in sautés and things and salads, and the root and the flower. You know, the flower makes beautiful tea. But look, here's another one that looks similar, and see if you can see the differences, because I actually made a mistake and ate this one. I'm still here. I believe this is a mustard weed or something like that. But if you look, the leaves look very similar. If I hold the two leaves together, let's do that on there. You see, dandelion is smaller, but they look very similar, like an upward arrow. But the texture of the plant is very different. This is much thicker. This is much this is a little bit velvety. This one isn't. And if you look at the shape, the way the thing's grown, that's not a star shape in the ground like the dandelion. It's all sprouting up. If in doubt, what you really need to do, or you don't have to, but one of the keys to foraging is time. In fact, kind of watching over seasons. So I watched, and I saw that the flowers on this were nowhere near like the dandelion flower. I was like, that's why that one tasted different. I'm not saying you should be like me and be quite so what's the word? Well, I take a few risks and maybe I shouldn't. Now here we got one. This is burdock, and that can grow very large, and that has a root which is edible. The leaves are also edible but rather bitter, but they are very healthy. So that's another forageable plant. Let me see if I can see a burdock in seed. Just let's have a look. This is another burdock. It's not in seed, but it's more like a burdock. Normally they are huge leaves, as you can see. They get very big, and they're massive. It's very easy to understand a burdock. A huge, huge leaf. They're very useful leaves. As I said, they're quite bitter, the leaves, but they're edible. They're totally edible. You can go online and find recipes for that. And the root is the one. So, all the ones that have roots are very important to know. They're carbs. If you need carbohydrates, you're going to go to the burdock, and there's another one I've got later on. I'll show you. And what else have we got here? Good old stingy nettle. I think everybody recognises the stingy nettle very easily. And the stingy nettle, you really want to take the tops. In fact, if you overeat stingy nettle, it can be toxic. It's not so great for the kidneys, I think. So you don't want to overdo it, but it's a delicious plant and very healthy as well. Very good for allergies. And you can make teas with it, or you can use it like spinach. Once it's been cooked for about a minute or two, it loses its stinginess. I've got a lovely bumblebee here. And the bumblebee, as you see, loves the dead nettle plant. That is a dead nettle. This is one of my favourites, and it's everywhere on this land. And I take a dead nettle. It looks like a nettle, but it's not stingy. Delicious, absolutely delicious. I cannot really. It's really delicious. Salads, I use it in the salads a lot. It's slightly minty, slightly. You can also, it's very nice also fried. Stir fried or used in risottos or in pastas. Very nice, very tasty plant. You can also eat the flowers. I tend to leave them for the bees, but because the bees do love them. But you can use the flowers too in salads. Very tasty. What else have we got here? So much. You see, I'm just wandering around my land. This is the Nubiad land. And that is something called lamb's lettuce. It is absolutely delicious. I was bemoaning the fact I had no lettuce for winter. And then I noticed this plant popping up. And I had a feeling this was something good. And so there are apps. I'll put links to some. There are apps that you can take photos and it will tell you what they are. I think it's better to use the app and a book and experience all together to build up your repertoire of forage plants. But if you look, again, these growing clusters, it's useful to look how they grow. You can see how it grows a little bit like a purslane, and it sort of looks like this kind of bunched up thing, and it feels lettucey. And it tastes lettucey. It's really good. It's better than lettuce. It's quite sweet. In fact, people do cultivate lamb's lettuce. It's that good. That one there, we've already seen that. Give you time to guess. It's the burdock. Now, what else have we got? And here, we've got one of my favourites. They're all my favourite, hey? Really, they're so delicious. This is the dock leaf. So common, so underrated. And my favourite way, I mean, people use the seeds and all kinds. You can tell the dock leaf, look, it has this, look at the shape, study the shape. And it kind of almost feels a bit rubbery. It's kind of got a rubbery feel to it. And it's got this, that stem. These are things you kind of start to notice. And if you look at the back, you can see how the leaf shape is. You start to notice what these leaves look like in detail. And very delicious plant this. With lemon and garlic, I'd so recommend it. Oh my goodness. In risotto, for example, or just cooked on its own. So yum. And there's so much you see, and I'm just wandering around here. And this is why it's so important not to, this is why I don't get machines in my land. People are saying to me, oh, your land's so rich. Well, yeah, I don't destroy everything, and this is why you don't. It's giving you stuff. It's giving us stuff. And here, this is another real favourite of mine, the chickweed. It's another favourite of my chickens as well, though, unfortunately. Yeah, the chickweed, super delicious. Just take a look at that. I wonder if I can find some more. It has little flowers on as well sometimes. So you can have a good look at that. Chickweed, and they were a bit wrinkly. It's more like that. It's like a little lettuce, very nice in salads and also in stir fries. Super tasty. So what's that one, folks? I'll give you 5 seconds to guess. Dock leaf. What else have we got? Well, now I come to the magical one of the year. This one. Some people may be able to guess. And this is one of the things about foraging. This is where when you take it to another level and you call things into your land, people will think I'm nuts. I called 2 things into my land. One was that lamb's lettuce and the other one was turnip. A friend of mine gave me some of turnip pickle, and I decided I wanted to make turnip pickle. I said, oh, I need some turnips. The next plant I found was this turnip that has just self-seeded on my land. And this is a fab plant because you can eat the leaves as well, and they're like broccoli actually. This before it flowers, it's got like a, there we are, like a broccoli head, and that is so yummy too. That's really yummy. But if you dig it up, and then let's see if I can find one. Underneath is a turnip, should be, but they sometimes don't. See, that one hasn't grown yet. Sometimes they don't get a root on. But they get a fat root. I've got one up there, so I'll go and show that to you. You see that's, I mean, this is a withered one that I chucked away, you know, it's a reject. But that's basically the root. You can get massive, some of the roots were massive on them. And I turned it into this pickled turnip. It's good, I tell you. I just found that. I didn't grow it, no effort. So I hope that inspires you to learn a few more weeds. And yeah, and you don't need to worry so much about making this massive garden, or you know, you've liberated yourself basically from the grind. my favorite topic, freeing yourself from the grind, even the grind of gardening. You don't need to. Gaia is taking care of us in so many ways. All we need to do is open our eyes, open our minds, and kind of, I guess we humans are rather arrogant. We think we have to do everything and we're in control, and actually we could just let go and let her help us. So I'll put some links in. I've got some links about foraging. and I'll put the book in the links as well at the bottom, and of course a link to the mud home. Don't forget you can get your free off-grid prep course at the mud home too. I'll put that link in, and many other resources, so hop over and have a look.